Hello and welcome to Bridging the Gap. I'm your host, Todd Johnson, and today we have a very informative program. Stay tuned for today. This is going to be a great one. Cradles to Crayons. That's right, Cradles to Crayons. We have the executive director, Ms. Michael Smith, with us today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Now, before we get into the actual nuts and bolts of Cradles to Crayons, could you tell me how you first got involved in this work?
It's an amazing mission that came to Philadelphia in 2007, and I was so excited when I first saw the model that I basically set out to try and find out how I could get to work there. And I finally got to work there in about 2010, so it's very exciting.
Are you originally from the Philadelphia region, or?
Well, I have a North Philly accent, as you can tell, but no, originally I'm from the south of England.
Okay, all right. I've actually been to London. That was many moons ago. But welcome to the show, Michael. I did some studying and reading up on you guys and your program. Would you kind of give us an overview of what you think the program's directives are and initiatives are to our viewing audience who may have never heard of Cradles to Crayon?
Well, I think it's rather interesting that this is a program called Bridging the Gap. And we think of our organization as Bridging the Gap because what we do is connect communities that have to communities that need. And what we do is collect children's clothing, toys, books, school supplies, anything a child between the ages of 0 to 12 could possibly need. And we bring it to our warehouse in West Conshohocken. And then we use over 2,000 volunteers a month, every month, to sort and pack high quality, custom packs for children. We call them kid packs, and each one is customized for the needs of a child. And the children we serve are children living in poverty because, sadly, Philadelphia is one of the poorest cities in the nation, which we often don't think about. But we work with about 270 agencies who work with children who are either homeless or victims of domestic violence. And the social worker goes online, a bit like Amazon, and they order the items that a specific child might need. So we know whether the child's got big feet, we know whether the child likes Superman, and then 3 to 5 days later, they will receive a custom package of goods, including a week's worth of clothing, toys, books, school supplies, to restore some sense of normalcy in their life.
Now, your program, you said that you will, like Amazon, a person might, a social worker might go online and describe to you what the needs of this particular child are. How the 270 agencies, how did you all link up with them? Was that something that migrated over time, or was there some kind of sponsorship?
That's a great question. The mission is to try and reach children living in poverty. And the idea behind the work that we do is to try and provide everyday essentials to children in need. And that relieves pressure on families, and it relieves and improves the lives of children so that they have a choice of clothing to wear, they have a selection of books to read, they have a backpack to go to school with. And so what we want to do is try and reach those agencies who are working with families and children to help stabilize them and restore some sense of normalcy. So it may be counseling families because they're the victims of domestic violence and getting them into temporary housing, or they may be homeless. They may be, perhaps a parent is suffering from drug or alcohol abuse. And we want to sort of supply accessory needs so that the family doesn't have to worry about those kinds of things.
Does your program allow for the opportunity of your volunteers? You said you have about 2,000 volunteers monthly. Do the volunteers or either yourself ever have a chance to interact with the actual kids who receive these gifts?
It's a great question, and it's one we get asked a lot because clearly if people are wanting to give back, they want to see the children who receive the items that we're preparing. But sadly, most of these children are pretty fragile, and their families are fragile, and we want to respect them. We have a saying which is quality equals dignity. So we want to ensure that the children receive quality products because we believe it restores some dignity. We don't necessarily think of them as handouts. We want them to feel really thrilled that they're getting these wonderful items. So it's like a mini holiday for the family when they're getting some relief, because if you're living in poverty, in this city it means probably you're living, family of 4 perhaps, living on only $15,000 or $22,000 a year. And that's not very much. And so once you've paid your rent and your groceries, there's not much money left over for the children to have the things that any mom or dad wants them to have. And so we restore some sense of relief for the families. And so we typically don't connect our volunteers who work really, really hard in our warehouse directly with the children. However, we have pictures all around the warehouse of children, and we have many stories we can tell about the fact that we really change lives with the kid packs that we provide to children.
Do you ever get a telegram or card or a thank you note that kind of lets the people who are volunteering know that their work is much appreciated?
We get lovely letters from children and lovely letters from moms, and also lovely testimonials from the social workers. Stories about little girls who, for the first time in their life, they were the youngest daughter, and it's the first time they've ever received their own clothes. They always get hand-me-downs, and how the little girl basically she tore into her bag and put the clothing on right over the top of what she was wearing because she was so excited to have her own clothes for the first time.
That's enormously rewarding, I would think.
Yeah.
Now, your work, it relates to helping those who are impoverished, those who are homeless. How would they refer to you? Are they referred to you through the courts or the social workers at DHS? Is it? I mean, how do these various families? How do you guys find these families that are in need?
We take that responsibility and give it back to our agencies because what we do is when we're selecting a new agency and we're growing. We served 55,000 children last year.
Wow.
And we're hoping to serve, actually we served 50,000 children last year. We're hoping to supply 55,000 this year and 60 in the year following. Because we're growing, we're taking on partners just steadily all the time. And we serve the 5-county region, Philadelphia, Chester, Delaware, Montgomery, and Bucks counties. And so we try and have a geographic spread, and we also try and make sure that we're serving children from 0 to 12. So we can't afford, because we rely on donated product from communities who are so very generous to us, we can't have too many children who are babies, because then we wouldn't collect enough product for them. And so we have to be mindful that we collect for children and have partners in that range of ages, and also we want to cover as broad a community as possible.
Are there other churches and other social organizations that are involved with your project?
Well, our volunteers come from a wide variety of communities. They come from corporations, they come from colleges. In fact, LaSalle is a wonderful supporter of ours. Many students have come through our doors to help pack and sort items. And churches in the region have been very, very helpful to us to volunteer and also provide collections of product, which is, as you can imagine, with 55,000 children served, you need a lot of product.
Yes.
And each child gets 4 pairs of pants, for example. So if we're serving, as we do, roughly 1,000 children a week at our busiest periods around the holiday season, that's 4,000 pairs of pants that we need to have through our doors.
Wow.
It's a lot of pants.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
But do you ever find yourself saying, hey, what I'm doing, I'm really making a difference in the lives of those who are in need? Because I know on the executive side, you probably attend board meetings and so forth, but you never lose sight of your initiative or your goals.
I walk around the warehouse every day because I want to see that we're providing quality product to the children we serve. It's also an incredibly uplifting experience to go through a busy warehouse where there are people of all ages. We can accept volunteers as young as 6 who come to our warehouse and volunteer with their parents and their families. And so it's normally a hubbub, an incredible level of energy in our warehouse. And so as you walk around, you see people scrubbing shoes, you see people sorting books, checking the pages of every book, making outfits that match. We want to make sure that if you get a week's worth of clothing, that all the clothing matches. We want to make sure it's not torn, it's not ripped, it's not stained, it's really, really high quality. And so we never lose sight of that energy and excitement that's associated with it. And also, at the end of the day, you look at the bags of clothing, toys, books, birthday gifts we also do.
Wow.
We also do strollers, pack and plays, those kinds of things. You look at those completed bags at the end of the day and you can say, wow, that's going to a kid. And we normally turn our products around in 3 to 5 days, but we also do emergency orders, which are turned around in about 24 hours.
Wow.
And recently we've discovered that if you're a child who's the victim of domestic violence, you leave home in the middle of the night, typically to get away from your abuser,
Right.
and you're normally only wearing your pajamas. So we have started emergency closets in domestic violence shelters where we supply a range of all of the age and gender type bags that we supply, so that a social worker can just pull a bag off the shelf and make sure that the child could even go to school the following day because they have school supplies, they have clothing, and they have shoes ready to go to school.
That is absolutely phenomenal. Just to hear you explain the program and to kind of share. And when we come back on the other side, I want you to share some of your personal experiences that you've had with Cradles to Crayons. And then also I want to get into some other things about your life work with this. Do you see yourself doing this long range? So right after we come back from this commercial break, we'll jump into some other areas as it relates to Cradles to Crayons. Please don't go away. Stay right there. We'll be right back.
Dreams used to be traveling to places like Spain, Africa, India, going to college and becoming a doctor, being a radio show host. But those dreams are over. A one-night stand changed my life forever. I thought it wasn't a big deal. I didn't know the meaning of consent. Now I learned the hard way. If someone says no, it means no.
From our campus to the city of Philadelphia. Tune in and watch, because we know you will love LaSalle TV.
Cyberbullying comes in many forms and can happen 24/7. If you or someone you know is a victim of cyberbullying, take preventative and assertive action. Keep evidence and document all instances. Remember to record dates, times, descriptions, and also save and print screenshots. Block your cyberbully and present your evidence to school officials or law enforcement. No one deserves to be a victim of cyberbullying, and together we can end it. For more information, visit stopbullying.com.
Have you ever
Had someone repeatedly put their hands on you even though you were saying no?
Been threatened into an unwanted sexual activity? Each year, there are almost 300,000 victims of sexual assault,
Unwanted touching,
attempted rape, and committed rape
and even receiving sexually threatening messages.
are all forms of sexual assault. Anyone can be a victim
No matter the age, gender, or ethnicity, take a stand.
against sexual assault.
Hello and welcome back to Bridge the Gap. Today, my guest is Michael Smith, the Executive Director of Cradles to Crayons. I wanted to jump in on this side of the hour to talk about, first of all, how did you get involved in this work? Was it a personal thing that you saw someone who was homeless and wanted to get involved? How did you end up becoming the Executive Director? You told us you had an interest when you heard about the program, but was there something that happened to you on a personal journey that, right?
I think it's actually the end of a cycle in terms of life, or perhaps the beginning of a cycle, because when I was about 18, my plan was to go to medical school and help people. And as it turned out, I didn't end up doing that. I went a completely different direction, and ultimately, after doing a number of different careers, ended up working in the arts for a number of years. And the first step I took away from the for-profit world was to move into a non-profit in the arts field as an executive director.
Okay.
After being there for about 10 minutes, I realized executive directors have to fundraise. They really need to fundraise. And so I realized that I needed to learn how to fundraise. So I stayed in the arts for a couple of years, but then moved to educational enrichment for young children and worked there as a development director, which is the fundraising arm of the organization, and learnt in 4 years how to be a good fundraiser, or a better fundraiser, let's say at least. And then while I was working there, I became aware of Cradles to Crayons, which was an organization that was started in Boston in 2002 by a woman called Lynn Margario, who worked for Bill Clinton's administration, and was amazed when she discovered her 6 siblings were starting to have little boys and little girls. And when she went to their home, she found there was so much stuff. Every child had more clothing than they could possibly want or need, and they grew out of it very quickly.
Right.
And she saw this wealth of product in these homes and thought, there are so many children out there who need this stuff.
Wow.
I'm going to find a way of developing a model to get this stuff to kids who need it. And so she founded Cradles to Crayons in Boston in 2002, and it came to Philadelphia in 2007. So we've been in Philadelphia for about almost 8 or 9 years. We have a warehouse that's 17,000 square feet in Conshohocken. Our Boston sister organization has a 40,000 square foot warehouse, and we aim to move to a 40,000 square foot warehouse sometime later in 2015. And that way we'll be able to serve even more children.
Now, has Cradles to Crayon moved up and down the Northeast Corridor? Has it spread out west or in the other regions of the country?
Well, again, that's a great question. You're sort of ahead of our board because in October we finally made the decision to go national. And so now we have a Boston site, a Philadelphia site, and a national organization that's currently looking at Chicago as being the next venue. Because what you want to have is a community where there are people who can contribute clothing and goods and support the organization next to communities where there's a need. And we provide the conduit and the environment where we can provide quality products to those children who have the need.
Now, you mentioned about the products going to the kids. How do you physically get the products to the children? How is that accomplished?
Well, it's a very cost-effective model. We rely on people bringing the product to our warehouse, and at the back end with the finished kid packs, those completed packages of selected goods, the partners come and pick them up about 3 to 5 days later. Okay. So they actually come to our warehouse. So.
Now, have you shared with me a couple of experiences? Could you share with me some of the struggles that your organization might face? Because again, we know that the country right now is having some upheaval in terms of people who normally may have wanted to give but may not be in a position now to give but rather to receive. So has that been a hardship for you guys?
It's a perpetual struggle. I mean, I think it's very difficult for us as people living in America to realize how poor some people are in our communities. And not just in the inner city. We tend to think possibly that there's urban poverty, but sadly poverty is rising almost twice as fast in the suburbs than it is in the inner city.
Interesting.
And those people are hidden. They surf on couches, they live in motel rooms, you don't necessarily see them. And those are the people that we're really trying to reach to make sure they have some of those things that make life normal for them. The other thing that we do is once a year, we try and ensure over 25,000 children have a brand new backpack to go to school. Wow. In August, one day we go to Lincoln Financial Field and over 500 volunteers pack 24,000 backpacks in less than 2 hours. Wow. And we distribute them from the field that same day, so that day 24,000 children get brand new backpacks to start school.
Wow, that is amazing.
And not only that, we keep them filled year round, so that you might get the new backpack, but then you can come back to Cradles to Crayons and get it filled over and over again
Wow, that's good. Would you give out your website too while our listening audience, because somebody viewing this program may want to volunteer or may want to donate. Would you give us your website?
Yes, our website is www.cradlestocrayons.org, and you can find out about volunteer opportunities and book a volunteer visit. You can find out where to drop off clothing, because we have clothing sites throughout the region, so you don't necessarily have to make the trek to Conshohocken. And of course, we're always open for financial donations to keep the lights on and to fill those gaps. I mean, we use only brand new socks and brand new underwear for practical reasons.
Right.
And those are items that are always in short supply.
Is there a phone number that they can call as well, or just
The
call them?
website is typically going to get the fastest response.
Okay. Now, I want you to share with me, if you could, or if you would like to, a personal experience that kind of made you say, this is going to be my life's work, or this, I'm right where I want to be. Because you spoke about some of the other work you had done in for-profit and then the arts not-for-profit, but are you now where you think you belong? Is this your destiny? Is this your life calling?
I can't think of a better place to be, because this is a very tightly run model. It's very cost effective, and it brings all my for-profit business experience to bear on what I call a mission-focused business model. So in terms of where I've landed, it's just a wonderful place to have landed. But the bonus is that we change lives. And I look back now, I was very new in my job, and it was winter time. I think I came in November of 2010. And we got a call from a woman in Hatfield, which is the suburbs. And there were 2 young children who turned up at a McDonald's. They were wearing clothing. They did have shoes, but they didn't have warm winter coats. It was thin clothing, and they were hungry. They were really, really hungry.
Wow.
So you don't think of kids being hungry in America again. Well, the McDonald's could get them the food, but clearly they need more than that.
Right.
And it turned out that what had happened was that their mom was in prison, their dad had died about a year before, and their sister, who was only about 16 or 17, was looking after them.
Wow.
And she clearly didn't have the capacity to do it. And so what happened was that we got the children into care with actually their grandmom, and we delivered 2 kid packs to them.
Wow, that's amazing.
Clothing, toys, books, school supplies. And the 5-year-old, who's a little girl, had a Lion King book in her pack, and she wouldn't let go of that all weekend. She thought that was the greatest and most secure thing that she could touch, because she'd heard about the Lion King before. And the fact that one book can make such a difference in the life of a child really had a huge impact on me, and has really sort of pushed me forward to keep doing this work and keep growing this organization so we can reach more children in need.
Do you see yourself, you mentioned how poverty has expanded into the suburban communities. You mentioned Chicago, and I'm sure some of the urban areas you want to attack. Do you see yourself down the road perhaps going into the suburban communities and helping there as well?
Well, I think with our move from our 17,000 square foot warehouse in Conshohocken to a 40,000 square foot warehouse later this year, we will greatly expand our ability to serve more children. So we will be partly doing it within the Philadelphia urban community, but clearly we can reach out to New Jersey, to the Camden community where there's immense poverty, and also out into the suburban areas where we'll have a better ability to reach more children, because we'll be attracting more volunteers, attracting more product, and ultimately getting those numbers up to reach more children.
As executive director, there's the flip side. You have to be a fundraiser, you have to raise money, you have to deal with boards and corporations. Do you find that as exciting too, or is that the more mundane work?
I think it's like a juggling act. We've got to keep everything working and focused in the right direction. And so it's keeping my board focused on the things that they need to do and help with our strategic vision, help with our fundraising, and also help to keep them connected with our vision and mission. I love the fact that we deal with so many communities. We deal with schools, we deal with corporations, we deal with churches. In fact, pretty much anyone can help us. And often we find that people we have helped come back to us as, once they've got on their feet, they come back to volunteer, they bring their kids to volunteer, and they often give back product. We reach so many people in this community. We as I said, bridge the gap between communities to provide help to children.
That is enormously,
Yeah.
I mean, the work you do must be very satisfying. You help those that you help come back to help others. That's got to be extremely rewarding to you personally. Are there some instances where you've had an aha moment? By that I mean a moment where something that took place was so out of the ordinary, it just made you say, aha, this is where I belong. This is the greatest job or the greatest career someone could have.
Well, I think of a little boy who came into the warehouse with his mom, and he came in and he was carrying a bag of socks and underwear, I think, and some clothing. And his mom said, go on, tell the lady why you're here. And he went, oh, didn't want to tell the lady why he was here. And she said, no, go on, please tell the lady why you were here. And he said, he must have been about 5, he said, I used to collect teddy bears for kids, but I don't anymore. And she said, go on, tell the lady why you're here. And he said, well, when I was 3, I was an orphan, and I was living in a foster home. And I needed clothing, underwear, socks, and shoes. And now I'm here with my mom, my foster mom, who's now adopted me, and I want to give back to other kids because I'm so lucky.
Wow, that's extreme. You're going to make me cry here. Listen, great program, Cradles to Crayons. Again, I'm Todd Johnson. I'm your host. When one's on the right, another's on the left. When we reach towards the middle, we begin to bridge the gap. Until next time, love somebody and be nice to everybody. Bye for now.